President Muhammadu Buhari has taken a step to address the crisis plaguing the nation due to the scarcity of naira notes. The president stated that old 500, 1,000 notes are no longer legal tender in the country, while 200 naira will remain legal until April the 10th. He sympathized with Nigerians, apologizing to Nigerians over the difficulties experienced in accessing the scarce new naira notes. A senior advocate of Nigeria, Ebun-Olu Adegboruwa, has reacted to this development, saying that the president flouted the principle of separation of powers, that the president cannot overrule the Supreme Court of Nigeria. Jide, this is getting interesting. I read that speech, and the president has foreclosed the possibility of 500, 1,000 naira coming back, and he retained the 200 naira till the 10th of April. And going further, the CBN disclosed yesterday that they've even disposed the 500 and 1,000, 500 naira and 1,000 naira notes, that they're no longer in circulation. I still have like 20,000 of the old notes with me, and people are not responding again.
Well, Mr. President is not God, and he's not bigger than the Nigerian state. The president needs to be told that he's not bigger than the state. He's not Louis XVI. The state. So he's not Nigeria. He's not bigger than the highest court in the land. He's subject to the highest court in the land. Mr. President calls himself the converted Democrat. This speech that he read today does not show that he's converted. This speech reeks like the speech made by a dictator, a non-repentant dictator. That's what it's
military general.
Like. A general, you know, you can even be a general and be really welcoming to ideas. It sounded like, look, it is me, and this is what I want, therefore it has to. What is the point in reading this statement? People had been dying before now. People didn't begin to die yesterday. Remember the guy who dropped dead while on the queue some weeks back? You didn't think it was important to address Nigerians. You chose to address Nigerians because you knew the Supreme Court was going to make a decision. You wanted to preempt the decision of the Supreme Court by letting the Supreme Court realize that this is your body language, this is how you feel, this is what you want. Ayo, we chose this profession because we want Nigerians to know that there are some of us who can stand by the truth. And in doing this job, we are not scared of anyone, not a president. I conquered fear a long time ago. If I cannot say on this medium, it's Mr. President is not the Nigerian state. It needs to be told. Obasanjo, in my view, was a stronger president than President Buhari. But there was a time when he lost about 10 straight cases in court.
Back to back, remember.
What happened?
Lagos State versus federal government, back to back. Atiku versus Obasanjo.
Several
back
cases.
to back.
Atiku defeated him several times.
Yes.
And his lawyer was Afebaola. He kept losing. But Obasanjo did not then come out to read a speech trying to say that he's the state, because that's what that speech looked like. That is the speech that you can only expect to read from a dictator. And you say you are a converted Democrat. But the converted is not prepared to wait for the Supreme Court to give his verdict.
That preempting.
You are preempting. That's the strategy is clear. There was an attempt to get to make peace with the governors, and that was where the idea of April 10 was suggested. You can see that that story that Premium Times published was not entirely wrong. You know, yesterday that story was flying around that they were, yes, because it was part of what was proposed to the governors, that let's have this this one. But the governors are saying, okay, even that 200, if we release the 200 naira notes, it will still not be sufficient to solve the problem. It will not be sufficient to solve the problem because that's not the only currency that we need.
Some people will ask, some people will say that if it were President Muhammadu Buhari has spent 7 years, and in the last 4 years, if it were to be Muhammadu Buhari on these ballots, would he have dared to implement this policy at this time? A lot of people are very, very skeptical about the timeliness.
Well, I can't speak for Muhammadu Buhari because I don't belong to his government, I don't belong to his party, and I don't share the same ideas with him. But I can just point out something. The Electoral Act, if you remember the Electoral Act of 2018, that was passed by the, was it the 8th National Assembly, and he refused to sign it because some things which later came out in the Electoral Act signed, you know, he he signed, sorry, and passed by the Lawan-led National Assembly, where in that one, under Saraki, Bukola Saraki, so he refused to sign them. The assumption was that because it was going to, it might affect his chances in the election. That was an assumption. Yeah. Even though he came out to say it had nothing to do with it.
Well, he didn't pass. 2 times he had opportunity to sign.
Yeah, he refused to sign it. So, well, going by that, what you asked might be said, well, one might hazard a guess towards that. But what I want to believe is that, well, beyond just the timing of the policy, I think the policy, good policy, no doubt, but I think the rough edges were not really looked at, smoothened out before.
And a lot of people will ask, why the rush?
It was brushed. Well, the thing is that in my years as a journalist, I have seen times when government policies came, they sat well with the people. Government policies came out, didn't sit well with the people. So that's why there is that regular interface. There should be that regular interface between the government and the people. I think the government allowed the situation to dictate its actions instead of it controlling the narrative. It had all the chances to control the narrative.
We'll take this break. When we come back, we'll talk more. It's still John Lestanga. We'll be right back.
Nigerians, my name is Kashim Shetima. I'm the APC vice presidential candidate. According to Korn Ferry, a global consulting firm, by 2030, there will be a global talent deficit of 85 million. Because of our useful population, our geographic location, and our proficiency in English, Nigeria stands a unique chance of becoming the global talent factory. The building behind us is the Secretariat for the Implementation of the Startup Act. It's the Digital Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center. Of the 7 unicorns in Africa, 5 are in Nigeria, all in Lagos. It wasn't a coincidence, neither was it an accident. It wasn't magic. It is called leadership. It is the Tinubu effect. Vote wisely, vote Bola Tinubu for the president of Nigeria. God bless us all.
When I was younger, I got asked a question by a friend. What is the ultimate dream in life? You see, in my several decades on Earth, I have seen trends come and go, hopes dashed and deserted. But the story of success has taught us that the ultimate dream should be one that inspires you to paddle through the odds to victory. Finally, I had the answer. The ultimate dream is not a destination. It is a journey of pushing through the odds. It is about challenging the norm, to strive for excellence, to always be in motion, to never give up.
Nigeria needs focused leadership to take decisive action to end insecurity, reposition our economy for businesses to thrive, and restore total peace in the land. Tinubu is the right man for the job. Through innovation and technology, he will reposition Nigeria for businesses to thrive. Nigeria will export more and import less. Tinubu will reposition the agricultural sector for food security and improve farmers' welfare. Electricity will be reformed for a brighter Nigeria. Health, education, and housing will be more accessible and affordable. Nigeria will be transformed into an entertainment powerhouse, a home of sporting achievement, and a renowned tourist destination. Tinubu's government will build a Nigeria where we prosper together. He has done it before, and he will do it again for Nigeria.
For renewed hope 2023, vote Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Senator Kashim Shettima as President and Vice President of Nigeria. Vote APC.
Great people of Lagos State, it's election time. It's time to consider the education sector and the tremendous transformation recorded in the past 3 years, ranging from erection of over 1,000 new classrooms in less than 4 years, all fully furnished. Introduction of CBT entrance examination and results checking in government schools. Job provision through recruitment of over 6,000 teachers. Introduction of a co-excel digital learning initiative to enhance teaching. Incentives for teachers. Introduction of new scheme of work, prioritizing co-curricular activities in school. Partnership and collaboration to boost education. All these have led to improvement in WAEC results with about 80% performance.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have just taken you through the achievements and successes of the Babajide Olushola Sanwo-Olu administration. And you've seen that Governor Babajide Olushola Sanwo-Olu has actually touched the whole value chain of education. The learning outcomes are excellent in all areas. So, therefore, I invite you to vote our Governor Babajide Olushola Sanwo-Olu for his second term. I also invite you to vote for our leader, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as the President of Nigeria.
Another APC candidate across the state. APC Progress. This message is brought to you by Honorable Mrs. Folashade Adefisayo, Honorable Commissioner for Education, Lagos State.
Thank you for staying with us. It's 8 days to the conduct of the 2023 election, and we are counting down on journalist Hangout. I still have Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Emeka Madunagu in the studio. Jide, before we went on break, back on the street now, the situation of things, because we felt that, okay, after this speech by Mr. President, they're going to flood everywhere with the 200 naira and the new notes. But apparently, from what was taken out of the system, we have shortage. And I don't know the capacity of the CBN and Nigerian Security and Meeting Company to print what we need in the country right now.
I've been saying something for this year. The experts on TV who say a lot of nonsense, none of them, because they are not patriots in the real sense of the word, none of them has referred to it. We have an unaccountable CBN. If the CBN was accountable, by now, you will have known how much they printed in terms of the value of currency and all that. You will have known how much. They will have been briefing us day to day. We are in a crisis situation. Yes. And when you are in a crisis, what looks like an emergency, people who truly respect the citizens of their country will be briefing them, will be showing them that really we are trying to solve this problem. We may not have solved this problem, but we are making concerted efforts. We are not saying that.
And it's not the time to be partisan.
Bank staff are saying, look, they call the CBN, most time they don't even pick them because they've not got enough to give people. It should be able to break it down for us to say, 500 naira note, this is what we have. This is what we printed. 1,000 naira note, this is what we printed. That's being accountable. You can't be in charge of the Apex Bank.
Our treasury.
Or the treasury, you can't be, what do they call it in America, the treasury, whatever, and not be letting Americans know what efforts we are taking to solve a problem. CBN is already subsumed in politics. In any case, the man who held the CBN was desperate to become president of Nigeria. To the point that he even engaged a lawyer
to get an injunction,
to try to see whether he could force himself on the rest of us.
After losing the tickets, it became
say, now we wanted to be, because people were pointing to the law. And he wanted to circumvent the law.
That same man.
So he got a lawyer to try to interpret that portion of the law. Can I contest? Can I be stopped? What if they try to stop me? What if I say no? You know, something like that. Somebody who should never have even contemplated it.
And if
the mere contemplation of the idea itself was bad enough.
Would have thrown in the towel.
Now, he has lost the thing. You know, it was the governor of Adamawa that first told us that he's a bitter man. After he lost the primaries, this is what he wanted to use to punish us. It was Fintri that first said so. People may be trying now to make this, because you have a Tambuwal among the governors that have challenged the federal government. Is Tambuwal now an APC governor? Is he not a PDP governor? Are his people too not suffering? The people who are going there or going out destroying things, do they write the party that they belong on their foreheads? When the rain falls, it doesn't fall on one household alone. That is the thing. Those the hypocrites today, who are refusing to speak the truth because they think this will lead to an end that they desperately want to see. Some of them are suffering. No, it's a lot worse for a lot of them than some of us. Because by the grace of God, some of us have friends in the banks. People that, when we go to the bank, sometimes after they've given us good service, we tip them. Sometimes they ask, do you need... I can give you my own quota, because even bank staff now have quota. They can't take more than 20,000, even if you are bank MD. So if we have money sufficiently, somebody will now be deciding that, look, I have ₦1 million in this account, in my account. You are telling me that I can't take 10,000. I can't take 20. You even gave directive that they should be paying people 20,000. The banks are flouting your directive. You've not made an example of any of them. The reason you are not making an example is because you know you have not given them enough. This is the truth. So the Constitution is clear. Mr. President has no right to say those things that he said, because under Section 2871 of the Constitution, the President is statutorily obliged to obey, enforce, and give effect to the decision of the Supreme Court. So why are you trying to make yourself a one-man Supreme Court? You are not prepared to wait. Whereas, what the law says is that once you bring yourself before the court, you must be patient enough to wait for his judgment. Malami knows that clearly, and he has to watch his back. Because everything does not end with the Buhari presidency. You will leave now. Ondoka, go and ask Ondoka questions now. He's been Attorney General himself, and he fell out with his colleagues. The colleagues will wait for you. So if you can't advise the president to obey the law courts, obey the decisions of the court, even in critical matters like this, you are joking with a constitutional crisis. Because what if the Supreme Court gives an order that says, okay, in the light of the sufferings that Nigerians are going through, this is our decision, and it goes against what the president has said. What will happen?
Emeka, now, you find out, you know, I told you earlier that those opposed to Mr. President in the last 7 years, they are now his best friends. Just side just changed. Yes, side just. I don't know about that. Side just changed, and you see Nigeria that this is, you know, everything we introduce politics into everything. We don't come together as one to fight something that, look, is affecting our people.
Well, I wouldn't agree with you, because it's not as if you say those opposed to the president are now Buhari's.
The low number of them.
Then,
well,
it's an assumption.
By their actions now. Because this appears
say
to
this
be
the best policy.
You know why I would say, you know why I would say so?
Mr. President is right.
One, naira is not raining freely on anybody.
That's not, nobody said they've taken money.
Yeah,
Nobody said they've
I'm not
taken
talking
money.
about taking. No, I'm saying everybody's affected by this.
No, but some of them are pretending like they are not affected.
Oh, it's a good policy.
But what about those who have supported Buhari in the past 7 years, supported everything he did? Now, when fuel scarcity came, what happened? Did they get free fuel? The point is this. Nigeria is bigger than everybody. That's where I stand. Nigeria is bigger than everybody. And there's freedom of opinion. There's freedom of choice. But the main thing is that I think this administration had actually used an ex parte order to get a Chief Justice of Nigeria removed. So they ought to have known that, you know, if they believe so much in an ex parte order in doing something like that, then they too should have subjected themselves to the ex parte order, given by the Supreme Court. Then let lawyers, because the Attorney General of the Federation has filed an objection, and then I saw something the Justice Okoro said that lawyers should not behave like politicians. They should think of the suffering and of the people and the interests of the nation. So what I believe is that, well, the government should actually tread carefully on this matter so that the interests of Nigerians, the generality of Nigerians, all Nigerians, because all Nigerians need money, so that the interests of all Nigerians will be best served. Yes, the president listed some points. He said, you know, that motivated this policy.
Good point.
Very good point.
Good policy.
To me, just like Jide said, these certain things should have been put in place, and the policy should have been followed through. This question of one bank manager kept, you found
and it must be implemented 8 days before the general election.
Well, you see, I think if the president is saying he just received consultations, he just received views from various widespread consultations, that means he's saying in a sense that he didn't consult widely.
Why do you have riots everywhere?
Before taking that decision. I think it should guide, that's one of the things we've really complained about. These decisions that have been taken without wide consultation.
All right. We'll take this breather. When we come back, we'll talk more. It's still Journalist Hangout.
The very high workforce mobility of health workers is global. Doctors are moving and nurses are moving everywhere. I've had occasion to speak with other ministers. Even Ghana, they are losing doctors going to, so there's a high mobility in the health sector workforce. And in Europe, where the population is, and America, where the population is aging more, a lot of nurses are not even working in the hospital, they're working in the homes for the elderly. So they require a lot of people. And here, what we are doing about it, first of all, to do everything we can to improve the conditions of service. We have improved the hazard allowance. We're looking at how to improve remunerations.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Hello Nigerians, my name is Kashim Shetima. I'm the APC Vice Presidential candidate. Here we have 1,776 orphans, vulnerable orphan girls from Northern Borno, all of them victims of Boko Haram, our house and educated, getting the best that the nation has on offer. Look at this edifice. It's about one of the best schools in the nation. And this has been replicated along the length and breadth of Borno and further sustained by Governor Babaga Sulu. Let us into office. We promise you such edifices will be replicated across the length and breadth of this nation. Vote wisely, vote Bola Tinubu for the presidency of Nigeria come February 25th.
When I was younger, I got asked a question by a friend. What is the ultimate dream in life? You see, in my several decades on Earth, I have seen trends come and go.
Hello guys, do you know that in his renewed Hope 2023 action plan, Bola Tinubu promised to fix our national security by implementing these common sense measures? The Bola Tinubu administration will increase the number of military and security personnel on active duty across the country, introduce modern doctrines and practices to better engage and defeat terrorists, kidnappers and bandits, upgrade weapons systems that introduce greater domestic production of munitions, introduce new border, forest and community security forces specializing in the protection of remote areas and variable terrain, reposition the police institution to focus on its primary duties of community policing and maintaining law and order, improve salaries and welfare for the families of our fallen heroes. This is the man who turned Lagos from a dangerous, often scary place where crime was the norm into a relatively safe and crime-free place it is today. He has the ideas, he has the track record. Vote APC for a safer and more secure Nigeria. This message is powered by the APC PCC Youth Directorate.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Journalist Hangout, and we are looking at the currency crisis rocking Nigeria. And I have on the line Mr. Sam Omashe. Thank you for joining us, Sam.
Hello.
Yes, Sam. Sam, tell us, what do you think about the president's speech this morning?
Yes, I made a comment this morning saying that the president has elevated himself above the rule of law. It is a dangerous trend in this country. If the Supreme Court has been able to make a statement, it is the job, as Jide said earlier, of the president to obey. He has made himself a lord and master of this democracy by what he has said. And this is becoming a precedent that we cannot accept as a people. If the Supreme Court says 1,000 naira, 500 naira are legal tenders, the president has no right, no authority whatsoever to go another way. What he has done is wrong. The other comment I want to make is that you guys said that his enemies in the past 7 years have become his friends. I mean, you guys went too far. His enemies last month have become his friends. I'm talking of candidates, the other major candidates of the election, presidential election. I'm talking of Peter Obi and Atiku Abubakar, who have been quiet from the neck up since this crisis. Apart from the fact that they said that it is little inconvenience, they should retract that statement, because it is not little inconvenience for the people who died in Benin yesterday. It's not little inconvenience for the man who died on the queue. It's not inconvenience for the person who is hungry, who cannot find food to eat. It is not. So we should get all these facts right, that there is a context to all of this, and those in this context to come out and say the truth.
Thank you, Sam Omashe. Thank you for your intervention, Sam. And when you look at the, Jide, on the final analysis, the Supreme Court said 22nd. That means they will consolidate all the, cases, and they will make a pronouncement. And because of
they will hear the matter.
They will hear the matter.
So it's left for them to determine whether they will immediately give their verdict
or not.
Or tell them
but
to
this
come
is
They also
a matter of national
jurisdiction too. There's the issue of jurisdiction.
Yes, everything they will.
Then the federal government's counter to the ex parte order. So all those things will line up.
They will look at it. So by 22nd, we'll know maybe they are going to make a pronouncement of them. But if at the end of the day, the Supreme Court is saying, oh, let's go back to the status quo, and somebody is telling me that they've trashed the 1,500 naira that we had.
We didn't hear him say that. I didn't hear him say that. Some of those monies are sitting in bank vaults. We didn't, these banks were paying people gold currency.
And it's still with Nigerians. We have this currency.
Banks were
we still have
paying
it
people,
abundantly.
even when the CBN governor said, don't pay people old notes. Banks were still paying people old notes.
Even as yesterday.
ATM was still...
So see, we are not sure whether indeed anybody has incinerated some, except if I hear him it from his mouth. I've not heard that from his mouth. And even if I hear that, I won't believe. I won't believe, because banks are still paying people old currencies. It could be an attempt to make it difficult
to revert.
But we can't preempt the Supreme Court. Let's wait for the verdict of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is the final court of the land and is the last hope of the common man. And the people who are dying, they are ordinary people. Those saying, oh, the people dying do not have bank accounts and all that. You don't have to have bank accounts. People just talk like silly people. You don't have to have bank accounts to feel this pain. In the villages, there are no bank accounts, but people still spend money. 18% of people, women in Jigawa have bank accounts, but they have a currency and they feel this pain. You don't have to have bank account to feel this pain. That's the point that I'm making.
Emeka, your final shot on this.
Yeah, I think what we end all this will be an out-of-court settlement. Yes, if you look at the trend of suits filed by states, jointly by states against the federal government, a number of them ended up out of court, with out-of-court settlements. So I think there will be an out-of-court settlement, with the tone of the Supreme Court that the sovereignty of Nigeria should be contemplated. I think every effort will be made between the executive and the judiciary to avoid a kind of clash that can worsen matters. But I think all in all, we should also avoid dragging politics into the matter. There's freedom of expression.
It has been politicized.
Yeah, but I think also journalists, we should avoid it. Dragging political personalities into the matter.
The reason the government has started that by saying that you did it to stop vote buying. You've already brought politics into it.
Yeah, well.
And all of the people, I can tell you that 99% of the people who support this is because they think it will stop vote buying. A lot of them have not even seen where vote buying was done know that it is not currency alone that you can use.
You find out in public discourse, narratives can go this way and this way, based on perceptions. But like I said in the beginning, the government needs to better handle all of these things so that Nigerians don't see it as, okay, you want to stop some people or you want to stop certain things from happening, but you're now making the poor man, figuratively called the grass, to suffer.
Okay. All right. I want to thank you, Emeka Madunagu.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Up next is Pandit Corner.